This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Coveil. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Today on the show, I have Frank Curzio. Frank is with Stansberry and Associates. Frank has been on my show before. He's an editor with Stansberry and Associates, writes a newsletter. Interesting guy, comes from a different side of the finance trading tracks than I do, so to speak. But, and we talk about this in the episode coming up, I like the fact that while Frank comes at it from a fundamental perspective, he stop losses his narrative. I like that. I hope you enjoy. Okay, well, I won't keep you long. I want to jump in though. Since you have been to something that I've never been to before, I want the on the ground. What was going on at the CES? What is it, Consumer Electronics Show? What did you see? What do I need to know about what's going to be happening soon enough?
Oh, I'll tell you everything. We can get right into it. You want me to talk about it now?
Sure, jump in.
Is this going to be taped right now?
Sure. I saw you and the robot. You were doing something weird with the robot, but
yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, you want me to? All right, so I'll get right into it. So yeah, the Consumer Electronics Show, it was absolutely awesome. It was the first time I ever attended it, and the first thing I did, now I'm a stock analyst. I'm going there as a stock analyst. So I want to find new ideas, and they release all the latest electronic products, all the technologies that are going to come out in 2014. It's a widely followed event. Everybody's out there. They had John Chambers speak from Cisco, Melissa Mayer from Yahoo. They had, the CEO of Twitter, all the big guys. For me, that was useless information. So I stayed away from that because 5 minutes after these people speak, you could read everything about this online. My job is basically to get in the trenches, talk to people, find these new technologies and what small cap stocks are great for my investors. And I tell you, I had an amazing time. It was unbelievable, some of the trends that you see where you have 3D printing, and I know these stock prices are through the roof. I'm not telling you to buy them. And Whitney Tilson,
3D printing. Explain it. Did you get to see it? I've never seen it in person. What was it like?
And it's funny because I actually went up to a guy. I said, "Listen to me." And I knew a little bit about the industry. I said, and I went up to him. I said, "Look, pretend." I said, "Pretend I'm a complete idiot. I know nothing about the industry. Explain it to me." And in a half an hour, I was talking to this guy. It's just fascinating. It's almost if you create a new product and you have a prototype, it's the quickest way to get a prototype. Anything you want. They were actually making food from 3D printing. They put them in these little cubes, these boxes. They have the materials there. They're building, for instance, Marvel just signed Marvel, not Marvel, but Marvel, the superheroes. All those are done in 3D printing now. You have these prototypes, and then once you have these prototypes, then you can send it off to manufacturing. It cuts the manufacturing process dramatically, and it's so much cheaper. And they show how these things are building. For example, I sat in a photo booth to take a photo. And then I go around and I adjust a photo, and a photo that I'm looking at is going to be in 3D. So they take the front picture of me, and I get to create it any way I want, put my hair, this and that. And it'll take you about a half an hour. And you send that picture into the machine, and in 5 days, they're going to send you back a little doll of yourself. So, just to show you how amazing some of this stuff is. And that's just one thing. I mean, 3D printing was really big last year.
Let me ask you, on the 3D printing, what types is this only plastics or is it?
No, they're making food.
How do they make food with a printer? Explain this to me.
I have no idea. It was unbelievable. Like, there were lines behind this stuff. There's so much more that you have to learn where I'm telling you that it was. There's 155,000 people that attended this conference. I mean, it was unbelievable how many people there. So the lines to see this technology were amazing. But, in terms of the food one, I don't know how it works. I didn't even get to it because there's so many people there. But the technologies are getting better and better to the point where you can manufacture almost anything. I mean, take Nike if you want. If you want to manufacture a sneaker and the whole prototype thing, you give it 3D printing, you get through 3D printing, you can have this thing ready within a couple of hours. Boom, send it off to the manufacturer, and then boom, you're done. You're distributing already. So the trend's amazing, but that really wasn't even the biggest trend. There was two other trends that are amazing, Mike, and one of them was connectivity. Connectivity is such a vague word, and you say, what are you talking about? But Qualcomm had this amazing display where you go through every single room. It's a living room, a kitchen, and a kid's room. And they were showing how every single thing is connected through your mobile phone. Now, you say, okay, yeah, I kind of knew that already. But no, when you go through it, it's absolutely amazing where your vacuum, when you walk in, your locks, everything's controlled. And as you walk in, the TV's like, hi, how you doing, Frank Curzio? And then it controls the temperature that you like. You can make food. You could make yourself coffee from around the world. You could do all this stuff is done. When we went to the living room, every single speaker in the surround sound could play different music through different chips. So it could all be connected, not just through Qualcomm, but other companies. So you could have other devices all being connected through the same phone. And you have cameras on these speakers. So if you're away and someone walks in, your phone alerts you and says, listen, nobody's home, your door's locked. Yes, someone's walking in your living room. You could check the cameras. And if you see that you're getting robbed, you could set the alarm off in your house immediately, which they did. They went into the kids' room, 9 a.m. They have chips in the little bear, say, hi, good morning, wake up, and they have your TV come on with your favorite app. All of this was done. And that's the big thing between Qualcomm and it's, a lot of this Internet of Things. There's a big term that's coming out, but all this stuff, like the connectivity part is amazing. And for me as a small cap analyst, it's just mind blowing.
I want to come back to the CES and get some other experiences, but I think you're bringing up an interesting aspect to your world, and which is the narrative. And when I saw you speak in Singapore in the fall, I had not seen you speak before, and I didn't know what to expect. But what I saw was a guy who stood up on stage and was giving a narrative, and you were talking about energy mostly at that time. But your narrative was, here's a great story. Here's what's going on. Here's what I'm seeing from an analyst standpoint. But I thought the really cool thing that you did, which I don't think a lot of people, look, you and I are in slightly different worlds, even though we're in the same kind of trading finance world. But I think the thing that you did that a lot of people in your space don't do is you lost your narrative. You basically said, look, I've done this research. I've done this homework. I've gone out on the field. I've seen these things. I think you could take a bet of this magnitude. However, you need to protect your downside because I can't tell you exactly how this is all going to unfold. I thought that was cool.
Well, what was cool about it? I'll bring up a real live example. Like you said, in that presentation, a lot of stocks that I brought up were all energy-related stocks in the Bakken area, in a place that I visited. I boots on the ground, talked to these people, and said, watch your stop losses. Now, we didn't stop out of any of these stocks, and we're doing well. We were in a lot of these stocks early, but look what happened to some people who did buy them at the wrong time. You have terrible weather across Dallas, which shut in production. Then you have a train that exploded in the Bakken. Now you have politics getting involved, and a lot of these stocks have gotten hit. So you don't know what's ahead in terms of a particular sector. Like there's mining stocks that are sitting on fantastic properties that are down 80% because the industry is destroyed. These companies don't generate revenue, but they're sitting on great properties. And if that gets developed, you could see 500 to 1,000% returns. If you have a market over the past 2 years like you had in mining minerals and gold stocks, and production costs are up 100% in 3 years, you're going to see a collapse in the industry. So it's very important to protect yourself because all of us are wrong from time to time. I know you're going to have guys on the show that say they're never wrong and they're the greatest analysts in the world. We all are, no matter how smart you are if you're a professional. It's very important to realize that because when you are wrong and you lose all your money, you're done.
You bring up a great example with gold, and anyone that's really paying attention to the markets in the last 4 or 5 years realizes that the Federal Reserve has taken actions that we have never seen before. And it's pretty easy to look at those actions and draw up theories about what's going to happen to the dollar, what's going to happen to interest rates, what's going to happen to gold. And for the longest time, gold was making the gold bugs and the super bears feel like, hey, I've made the right bet. And nothing has really changed of their view. It's not like the Fed's actions have changed, except the market in gold has collapsed. So I think it's, once again, you might have the narrative right. You might have the story right in your mind, or maybe even with the facts, but the markets can decide to go a completely different direction, and you got to protect yourself, don't you?
Absolutely. You bring up a great point. Say with this market, right? You have bears on and they're giving you all these statistics and they're right. That's the funny thing. They're exactly right. You're seeing the amount of debt, with the government, everything that's going on. But, it came a point like 2.5 years ago where you're looking at this and I was in that bear camp saying, wow, this is crazy. These numbers just don't make sense. With the path that we're on, we're terrible. But you know what? When you have the Fed, doing what they're doing, hey, in 2008, where they bailed out all the banks, they bailed out a ton of companies, they injected so much money into this market, they lowered interest rates, right? In 2008, everyone, there's not one person that you'll talk to, otherwise they're a liar. They'll say that they didn't expect inflation right now from when they started. And we're not seeing it. We're not seeing inflation based on what they look at, consumer prices. They're really low. We're actually seeing more deflation than inflation, believe it or not. So when you see these trends and then the Fed come out and say, you know what? Hey, we're not even looking at the unemployment rate no more. You know why? Because it's coming down. So, and whatever, you could cite any statistic you want. According to the Fed, they're like, it's coming down. So we're not going to look at that and base monetary policy off it. We're going to look at inflation because they know inflation is not going to go up for another 3 years. According to their estimates, that tells you that the Fed's going to keep an easy policy and stocks do good in that environment. So yes, you have all those stats and all those things going on. And believe me, I'm aware, I'm a fundamental guy and I see those numbers. But when you have the Fed saying, I don't care about anything, pedal to the metal, as an analyst, it's your job, especially if you're giving advice to people, to acknowledge that. Because if you don't, then, you've been wrong for a long, long time. And it doesn't look good for your clients, of course, but you're citing the same thing. So, over and over and over again, look at the debt statistics. It doesn't matter if the Fed's going to keep interest rates low. It will matter. You know it, Michael, and I know it. I know your audience knows. It is going to matter really bad.
We just don't know when.
We just don't know when. So right now, I know what the Fed is doing is making stocks the best asset class. And if you don't believe so, please call me. Let me know, because I don't know where's a better place to put your money right now if you want returns. I mean, you could say people love the word bubble, and maybe we are in a bubble. But if you see stocks like Intel, IBM, and Exxon trading at 13, 12 times earnings, yielding 2 to 4%, that doesn't seem like a bubble to me. Not yet. Will we get there? Yes. Are we in a bubble with some of these technology stocks and Facebook and Twitter? Yes, but who knows? They can go. We were in a bubble in 1998, I believe, and it went to 2000, and the Nasdaq almost went from
the Nasdaq doubled in 99, didn't it?
Yes, and we were in a bubble then, so be careful. But and if you want me to go back to the Consumer Electronics Show real quick, I'll bring up another point. Sure. Some ideas here. The biggest thing by far is the new ultra high definition 4K TVs. And, the thing is, there's no content available in 4K yet. No one has content. So if you buy one of those
I don't know what 4K is yet. So I'm completely, I've been living in Asia, in foreign lands.
This is fine. Nobody. What it is like how everything upgraded to high definition TV and digital and stuff like that. There's another new recycle coming where you have 4K TV. It's almost, if you look at these TVs, you'll see there's thousands of people around looking at them because it mesmerizes. It's almost like you're looking out a window. You can't even tell you're looking at a TV. However, there's no content. Nobody streams in this stuff. Now, Netflix announced that they're going to stream all their movies and all their TVs. So this wave is coming. YouTube's doing it. Comcast is doing it. All this stuff is happening. And, everyone's looking at the big winners. Is it going to be Samsung, LG, Sony who create these TVs? Could it be the chip makers, NVIDIA? So there's a lot of different plays. For me, I think one of the best plays is going to be Best Buy. And it's funny because Best Buy's a big box retailer and they almost went out of business because you have Amazon and Walmart selling TVs. But these new TVs that are coming out are so highly sophisticated that their unit called Geek Squad is going to make an absolute fortune. You have to, when you buy these TVs, you need someone to come over to help you out. There's some people that don't even watch TV that maybe listen to this. There's other people. It's a massive
okay, trend. Well, let me push back a little bit. When you say Best Buy, though, you're saying Best Buy from the standpoint of like, hey, here's a portfolio that you have in your world, whatever your portfolio is, and this might be another market you want to add to your portfolio. And I'm not telling you it's only going to go straight up, but I'm telling you it's a good opportunity. And if you take this opportunity, you better stop loss yourself as well.
Yeah, stop launching stuff. For one thing, this trend is probably going to start happening in 6 months, and then it's going to be probably through 4 or 5 years. Like you listen to this now, and then like 2 years from now, everybody's going to be talking about it. Right now, it's very early in this trend. It was the big theme at the Consumer Electronics Show. They're going to be selling these TVs now that they have content where you could actually, like, if you brought a 4K TV home right now, you couldn't watch it the way they're showing it at the Consumer Electronics Show because that content's not. It's not going to come out through your TV like that yet until you have specific content. Now, Netflix, YouTube, they're all going to start streaming all this stuff, which makes me think I learned a lot about Netflix, and I can tell you, and I know it's going to be mind-boggling when you hear this, and you're probably getting emails. Feel free to email me. Don't short Netflix. Don't look at the valuation. I'm a value guy. I wouldn't go near it. I'm telling you, it was that Netflix was competing with the cable companies. It's now the cable companies are competing with Netflix. And the thing is, you put all the market caps of all the cable companies together, and then you only have Netflix on the other side. So they're streaming everything and the new content that's going to come out. The whole TV, I never thought this before until I actually, talked to a lot of people and went through the Consumer Electronics Show and learned a lot about this and talked to people. But Netflix is almost competing with every single company, cable company and satellite company, and then you have Netflix on the other side, which is able to provide this new content, which is amazing. So you wonder why this stock went from 60 to 400. That's why. I don't know if it'll go higher or lower, but there's a reason why, and that's the reason.
So I'm, here I put my fundamental cap on, and I shouldn't really do this because this is not my thing. But when I look at the Netflix chart, I see this big rise up and then come down into 2012 and then it back up now. If I think about the fundamentals of a company like this, aren't they just the preeminent middleman? I mean, what is defensible about their business in this world of constant change? Look, Blockbuster was defensible for a while because they had bricks and mortar. But what happens if the distributors, the folks that actually make the content, just say they're going to turn the spigot off with Netflix? Can't another company just deliver this stuff just as seamlessly and just as fast? What's the moat built around Netflix, so to speak?
Nobody can really compete with them, and everybody that does business with them makes a fortune. So they wouldn't shut it off unless they want to lose money. And every single TV show, everything, all the original program, if you want some more evidence of how big Netflix is, look at Amazon.com jumping right in there. They have content too. Nobody really watches too many movies and TV shows through them or original program, but they announced all the original programs are going to come out in 4K. You're talking about Amazon. You're talking about Comcast. These guys, their market caps of tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. They're competing with Netflix. They're trying to follow Netflix. And it's remarkable that, they're going to pretty soon with everything coming on. I mean, streaming to your television. I never realized how big Netflix could be. Don't buy the stock here. I'm just telling you, I understand why the stock has gone up so much. And it's remarkable.
Is Netflix, though, is the power of the brand in a sense that if you look at Walmart, everyone's like, okay, I know Walmart and Walmart's so well established. People go to shop there. Is it just that the brand has become so powerful and so ubiquitous that the brand of Netflix is the value ultimately? Because technology wise, it doesn't, they're just delivering videos. Apple could deliver videos. The movie companies themselves, the production houses could deliver videos. So why does this middleman own the space? I guess that's my curiosity.
Yeah, no, for Netflix, they were first in line. They've got content deals in place. Everybody's going through them. They have the subscriber base already of 20 million, 30 million people already. So they have the subscriber base already, and they're first to the party. But I don't see too many people. They're trying to compete with them, but I don't see people going. And the original program is huge. And they're the first to get into original programs, things like House of Cards and stuff that people love that I never saw. They're bringing back Arrested Development and stuff. This way, you increase your brand, you help your brand, you make it better. Okay, I need Netflix, but it's just remarkable about what they're doing. And the biggest thing here is being the first to the market to say, hey, you know what? You bought that 4K television. You have to come through Netflix if you want to be able to see what you're seeing at the Consumer Electronics Show. And they're going to bring it to everybody. So, again, I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm not telling you to sell it. I can just see why it's gone up so much. And I never realized that. I was always like, Netflix competing. Everybody's competing with Netflix. Everybody's trying to be like Netflix. All the cable companies are trying to be like anybody that has a cable account, anybody. They could switch to Netflix due to the fact that they're going to stream all the new technology before anybody else. And that's why it's up so much. I'm not saying it's going to go up even further, but you see why. Valuations. You can look at valuation 2-3 years down the line and say, "Wow, now I see it." Well, if you look at Microsoft trading 13 times, Microsoft used to trade at 30-40 times earnings when they were in this growth model like Netflix. Okay, and they were super expensive, and that's why the stock hasn't moved for 12 years until recently. So Netflix is still in that growth trend. You just want to be careful because I hear everybody want to shorting Netflix. Just be careful there.
Let me ask you about Netflix. One more question about Netflix. As I'm looking at the chart right now, I'm seeing these big peaks, the one in 11 and the one we're at today. Even though you're making the fundamental case for why the company can do well into the future, would it surprise you in the future, though, that if the fundamentals stay strong, the company does well, they still dominate the market, but that current 332 price goes back to 100? I mean, this company clearly can go up and down. So there are big trends in this company regardless. Is that a fair assessment, just looking at the chart for the last 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the chart the last 5 years again, I'm looking at it from also fundamental and seeing where this stock went and wondering why this stock was up so high. What I do know is the biggest trend in the world in technology is going to be streaming these movies in 4K. I mean, it's going to be a massive trend. And that's one of the massive trends. And a lot of that is going to flow through several companies. And you're going to have all these guys. I mean, you walk in a consumer electronics show, it's 2 million square feet. There was thousands of TVs, all 4K. And a lot of that, no one's going to be able to see that. You're going to see that first through Netflix. So there's a reason why that's up so high. Could it go to 100? Of course. And go to 100. It could go a lot higher from here. But I see, I never saw the growth model behind it. I always looked at the fundamentals in Netflix. And I was always saying, you're crazy. And I told people to stay away from it at 200 and 250. And now at this price, it's not that I'm telling people to stay away from it, buy it again. I just see why, based on everything that's going on there, of why Netflix is doing so well, and the cable companies are well behind Netflix and trying to be like Netflix, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, you would think they had such a head start, and they didn't really figure out how to do it, did they?
No, and one last thing, a really smart, and we keep going with this, but one last thing about the Consumer Electronics Show. A real smart friend of mine, brilliant, wrote a ton of books and multimillionaire, and he writes all these books about, how to run businesses. And he said the final step of running a successful business is being able to walk away and not have to do anything, and it'll generate revenue for the rest of your life. That's the ultimate success. And I looked at the Consumer Electronics Show. There's over 3,300 exhibitors. People, everywhere, 155,000 people. The one company that wasn't there, Apple. Apple wasn't there, and about 70% of the companies are selling Apple products, talking about Apple, trying to find ways to get into their products and to, work with their operating system. And the fact that they're not there and almost the whole entire show and all the exhibitors are talking about Apple, it's almost like world dominance, where you don't even have to show up to the biggest conference, the biggest electronic conference in the world, and yet everybody's just talking about Apple and how we can get into your products and stuff like that. I just thought that was fascinating.
That is interesting, huh? I've not been to the CES, but you wouldn't think that I would just assume Apple was there.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, you get Cisco, Qualcomm, Yahoo, all the big guys were there, and I've been reporting through Facebook, and I'm writing a lot about it. And just one of the best things is just that I did is I took a tour, this executive tour, because it's overwhelming when you go there. When you walk in there, you just don't know what to do with yourself. There's so much fun stuff to do, so much crazy stuff, and here these guys take you through a 2-hour tour and almost run you through it. You have these earbuds in, you have the headphones in, and they're talking. And, it was like 10 people, I think, in a tour. And they tell you exactly the new technologies. They shout out thousands of stats. I mean, I took about 80 pages of notes telling you what to go look for. This is what you have to see. This is the guys you have to talk to. This is important. This technology is blowing up. Telling me, the guys on the sides of the show, which they have these little booths. He said those are the most important people to go to. Those are people who just got their booths late. They want to show off a new technology, and they just got in. There's not enough space. Make sure you go to those guys. You'll learn a ton. Just different things that you learn from these tours. From a stock picker perspective, was amazing. And I have so many different ideas, which is really, really cool, that I think that nobody knows about. There's a lot of things there when you go to Consumer Electronics Show. It's so widely covered that you're like, okay, what's new here? There's a lot of things that are new. Again, that connectivity thing where people have to be able to have enough bandwidth to be able to stream some of these movies, and you're looking across the world or stream some of this content. They don't have that yet. And there's so many small cap providers that need to provide that. They have the infrastructure in place, when you have Chicago and New York City, but when it gets to the individual house, a lot of people don't have that yet, where you have the connectivity where you could watch movies and, you put on ESPN, everything's video. Sometimes you don't get it. And there's a lot of little companies in there that provide, it's called the last mile, getting into your house that is just fascinating. So some really technical trends, I know, but really fascinating stuff when you actually go to this conference.
So you're talking about being on the ground. And, then when I saw you last, we were in Singapore, and you were talking about being on the ground and talking about various energy companies and fracking and whatnot. And I'm thinking about my 2013 spent across Asia. I think one of the things that, and I don't know where I'm really going with this, but I think the idea of being on the ground is something that I think many people have lost sight of. So all this technology is great. It makes you feel like you're there. But you and I both know, and a lot of people in the audience know, when you physically go somewhere to see something, there's a whole different vibe and you can't assume by watching on TV that it's the same as being there. Going on the ground still has a lot of value.
Well, let's use you as an example. I mean, you're on Facebook, you're posting pictures all over Asia. And this before, we met up when we were over there. And it's just amazing. When I actually wrote to you, I said, keep posting these pictures. This stuff is awesome. I love watching this. It's great for stories too. I mean, look, one thing about being a newsletter writer is, people think it's all about stock picks. You can have stock picks that go up and down, and you have to be right more times than wrong. Of course, obviously. I've been in this business for 20 years. But you know what? It's not only entertaining, but it's educating too. And the way you educate is you find these stories. And I'm not talking about visiting companies so much, because I've talked to so many CEOs, and that's the reason why I say stay away from the CEOs at the Consumer Electronics Show. They're interesting, but you're there for a couple of hours. You're going to find out everything they said. It's going to be written every place, but the CEOs are going to tell you exactly what they want to tell you. They're smart guys. I've never seen a CEO tell me, you know what, stay away from our stock right now. It's not good. Never happened in 20 years. But when you're in there and you're talking to, different analysts, and you're going in there and you're talking to people who work in specific fields. I mean, everyone listening to this may listen to you, Michael, or me, and say, well, you're a professional. Everyone is almost a professional in their own field, which is remarkable. When you have this podcast and I'm talking about something, a specific topic, there's someone who's been working in that field. I've gotten thousands of emails from my podcast, from people who work, overnight shifts, and they're working in the oil field, saying, Frank, you got to see this area. You got to point to these companies. That's how I got all my information to visit all these people. You're talking to people who drive water trucks, just regular people. That's where you get the information from. That's where you get the stories from. And that's where you get your stock picks from. Like, wow, this is an amazing trend. Are you kidding me? I don't even know about this.
Yeah, that's a great side point too, to the idea of being on the ground, is then having the network of people, because I know in the various networks that I'm on, whether it's Facebook or whatnot, the feedback I get from people is just tremendous. I mean, so much of my life is driven by just being there and listening, and what do other people have to tell me, and what other opportunities open up that I never would have known about.
And that's important. That's what I say with my feedback too. And when people give me feedback, I'm like, it's okay if you don't agree with me. If you feel great and want to say, Frank, you're an idiot, you have no idea to talk about, it's fine. But tell me why you think I'm an idiot. Because maybe, you get educated a lot on your feedback. Like, people say, Frank, this isn't a bubble. What are you, crazy? And they'll send, I have guys send me like 3-4 pages of statistics. They write stuff up and stuff like that. And I'll write back. I was like, this is pretty cool. You're wrong, but this is cool. But, it's just cool to see, instead of just saying you're an idiot or whatever, tell us why. I mean, that's why we have this podcast where, it's global. You get emails from any place. People get to listen any place, but you increase that network too, and you make so many friends where, whenever I go to Asia, I just, give a shout out and say, hey, if anybody wants to meet me, whatever. And I'll get like 100 emails. Yeah, Frank, come over here and I'll meet these people, in different places. That's where you get the real stuff from, believe it or not.
Yeah. Hey, it's Sunday morning. You and I are connecting really early. I know you've had a long week. Go enjoy the day. There's some football today. I'm hopping on a flight, and I'm actually headed to Las Vegas today. So
enjoy yourself. One thing is, I was so busy I didn't get a chance to enjoy myself much. So it was all about the conference and doing a lot of work and reporting back. So it's really cool. But safe travels, and whenever you need me on. But I'm so glad you're doing a podcast. You're awesome, and always a great show. And definitely keep posting those pictures when you're in Asia, because I love them. They look fantastic.
I'll be in Singapore on February 2nd.
Going back. So that's it. You're going back for good, I imagine.
I don't. What's the definition of good, Frank? It's all amorphous. It just keeps flowing. Who knows where the flow goes? Just follow the flow, Frank. Just follow the flow.
I'll end with this. I'll end with this because I know you for a while now, and I always see you post. I'm like, what is he doing there? Like, why would he go there? Why would he live there? And then when I mentioned Singapore, I knew. I was like, well, it's just such a great culture. It was so much fun. And I actually said that to you too when we eat dinner. I was like, I know why you live here now. What if so amazing. It's so different from here. And even Singapore is the one place I'd probably live outside the family. But fantastic, man. So yeah, I'm kind of jealous of you being out there.
Frank, we shall talk soon.
Sounds good.
Take care. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.